Chapter 26, Arriving at the Destination, First More. What? There was confusion on Altria's face, and then it turned into an embarrassed expression. His Royal Highness, although I really want to hear from you, but I have about 9 hours of training time in swordsmanship every day. If it is doubled, then a day of training time will take 18 hours. 18 hours, then there are 6 hours left in the day. As a knight, the necessary rest is also needed. Then the rest of the time is not enough to eat. I just want you to have no time to eat. Morgan thought in his heart. Otherwise, my Knights of the Round Table should become the Knights of the Dining Table. Morgan looked at Altria and said seriously, Altria, our enemy is not just ordinary soldiers. Our enemy may be the brutal humble King Fu Tigeng, or it may be facing the other side of the sea, the Romans. It's even possible to face some fantasy creatures you haven't seen before. And in this case, of course you need to work harder. Well, what the Queen said is correct. Altria nodded in approval. It's just that, in her heart, there is still a grieved thinking. I want to find a chance to eat. So, for your progress, I will start working harder now. Immediately, Morgan didn't give Altria a chance to refute at all, and left directly. At the side, Kay looked at Morgan's performance and commented with his chin, it seems that His Royal Highness Morgan has an opinion on you. What? Altria panicked. His Royal Highness hates me? No, it's not disgusting. Kay said to Altria, it's just that you seem to be eating too much. It's just a little bit. A little bit. You are a little bit more, compared with a team of soldiers. Kay said silently. As a knight, it's normal to add more nutrients. Altria answered seriously. Let her go. Anyway, it's not me who is in charge of the food now. In the following time, Altria's suffering day began. Practice the sword persistently. Now that Morgan had agreed, no matter how he agreed, but since she didn't oppose success, she must do it. Swing the sword continuously on the ship for more than 10 hours a day. And the rest of the time, she can only take time to rest. Morgan wanted to change the posture she had always wanted to do. It's a pity that she didn't know how hard a person would work if she wanted to do a meal. Now Altria has begun to learn to close her eyes while sleeping, and then go to eat. Everyone on her boat was dumbfounded. Can you do it like this? Morgan saw it, and his eyes were dull. Now, she really took it. Okay, you are great. I can't beat you. Let's try the rice. It doesn't matter as long as you work hard. Anyway, as long as you can become a qualified knight and can help me deal with my sister who doesn't know where it came from, that's fine. I gave up correcting you like this. Morgan felt his heart hurt. Then decided to do another thing on the boat. Study that lemon. Lot's idea was very successful. As far as her other crew members knew, the crew members on the ship suffered from bad breath and wound infections. There are very few non-combat attritions. This makes the crew feel very unreasonable. Then he expressed his sincere admiration for the ingenuity of King Lot. Therefore, Morgan decided to study these carefully. But after several days of research, Morgan did not come to a conclusion. I have split this lemon to the limit I can do. Why haven't I found the vitamin? Could it be further subdivided? With some thoughts, Morgan decided to go to Lot to inquire about the situation. But when she first went to find Lot, she happened to see Lot standing by the boat, looking out at the shore. Etc. Shore? It used to be sailing at sea, but now it's on the shore. Are we coming, Lot? Have we reached the territory of the humble king? Morgan asked Lot. Yes. Lot nodded affirmatively. Next, we are going to prepare for battle. He didn't say it seriously. The next battle will not be that simple. Morgan nodded secretly in his heart. In Britain in this era, the strongest strength is not King Yausa. Of course, it wasn't Lot who was still preparing to study various technological levels. The strongest man now is the brother of King Arthur, Fu Tigeng, known as the humble king. His territory is extremely prosperous. His subordinates come from a large number of foreign fighters, and his weapons and equipment are also extremely sophisticated. And the most important thing is that his own combat effectiveness is also extremely strong. Morgan still doesn't know, but Lot was very clear. He not only defeated King Arthur, and after King Arthur became the king of Camelot, he was still Altria's greatest enemy in the first half of her life. Later, it was defeated, and it was also Altria and his son Gawain who joined forces to defeat Fu Tigeng. After all, what Fu Tigeng represents, but the will of Britain. At this point in time, even if Merlin were to fight alone, he would not be his opponent. Adding up all the existence on the 4 lands of England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, Lot thought for a while. In this moon world, only the one in the Shadow Country can do it. Now it is estimated that it is defeated, but cannot kill the humble King Fu Tigeng. Moreover, we can't fight him head-on. If you want to defeat him, you can only do it when King Arthur and Gawain add up. Lot thought in his heart. Morgan agreed with his first half sentence, but after hearing the second half of his sentence, she frowned slightly. It is right for his own son to force that. How good is my talent? And the dog? The same is not bad. He is just a little bit worse than me. So the sons of the two of us born are very strong. There is no problem. But why do you want my sister to beat Fu Tigeng? What can she do? But since Siguzi said so, then she must have her own strengths. I must pay attention to it when the time comes. Fu Tigeng will also be defeated, and Camelot's throne will also belong to him. Either way, It can't be bad. With this feeling, their ship approached the sea, ready to land. Chapter 27. The people are innocent. Second more. The war, in fact, had already begun long before Lot and Morgan came to the territory of Fu Tigeng. As the incarnation of the White Dragon, Fu Tigeng has had a strong desire to unite Britain since birth. At the expense of desire, he easily unified the other nations on the British Islands. Not long after King Arthur returned to his territory, Fu Tigeng led the army to the outside of the chalk city of Camelot. On this road, the army led by Fu Tigeng certainly had no military discipline. The cruelest thing about human beings is that they are extremely cruel to other people of the same race as themselves. All these were seen by Lot. In order to communicate with King Yaozef, Merlin used magic to communicate with each other. In the process of contacting, Lot also showed all these clearly. Lot originally thought that as a liberal arts student, he had seen more miserable things in the history books than this, so that he could maintain a calm mind to look at these things. But when he saw these when he was preparing to board the ship, he also felt outraged. He didn't say anything in order to maintain the morale of the army. However, in his heart, he was extremely angry. Damn it, the humble King Fu Tigeng is really it. I don't want to take care of him and King Arthur to fight for the throne. Even if he wants to unify Britain and maintain the last mystery in this world, I don't want to comment too much. However, he absolutely can't put all these things on the civilians. They work all day, just for a little satiety food. Then I got this catastrophe without waiting for the harvest. Humble King Fu Tigeng, I must find a way to kill him. Morgan quietly listened to Lot yelling at the Under-King in his heart. She didn't say anything, just silently grabbed her hand on Lot's. She could clearly feel the trembling in his hands. Unexpectedly, you are so lustful in normal times, but you are so compassionate in this kind of thing. Don't worry, I know what you are thinking. After I become the Queen of Britain, I will definitely give this Britain a peace. At that time, so that everyone can not worry about being troubled by war and famine. Laughter. I know your hope. I will never let this hope fall. No, it's not just a failure. Even if it is realized a few years later, I will not agree to it. Thinking of this, Morgan became more determined about the next battle with his sister for the throne of Camelot. My sister? Does she know so much? Maybe according to what is further wanted. Just a king who will lead the army to continuous victory. No matter where I come from, will do better than her. Morgan vowed secretly in his heart. Lot couldn't help feeling a lot at ease when she held her hand like this. Huey came over at this time, saw Lot, and said to him, Your Majesty, the front has been inspected, and no one is in ambush. Luo featured head, go, let's go down. The rest, let me follow. In the first half sentence, he said to Morgan. In the second half of the sentence, he was speaking to other people in the army. Lot landed gently on the beach. He put his arms around Morgan, in the process seemed to lift the weight lightly. Very relaxed. Morgan held onto Lot tightly, and soon came to the shallow water. Later, the army followed them to the beach. As Kay said, there is no enemy here. They easily occupied this place. Merlin walked at the back of the line. By his side, is Altria. In the process of moving forward, Altria asked Merlin, Miss Merlin, I want to ask you a question. Well, you said. Well, who is the greatest enemy of Her Royal Highness? She wants to inquire about the enemy in advance, and then make preparations in advance. This question, you need to look for it when you follow His Royal Highness Morgan. Teacher? Altria frowned slightly. I know who that enemy is, but I don't know how you will face her in the future. Merlin smiled at the corner of her mouth and said to her, I don't know why. Altria seemed to see a pleasant sensation in Merlin's eyes. Sometimes the teacher's thoughts are really hard to guess. Altria sighed and thought, but immediately, she firmed her eyes. She also saw the magic performed by Merlin just now. The underlings of the humble King Fu Tigeng have completely forgotten the principles of the night. I must defeat him. Altria gritted her teeth and said, Next, the army began to march quietly. Facts have proved that Fu Tigeng really didn't expect Lot would lead someone to explode his back. When Lot brought people to the port town, the people here were still doing their daily lives. They saw the soldiers of Orkney with amazement on their faces. How did you get in? We didn't prepare yet. You came in? This is too uncomfortable. But Lot and Morgan don't care about this. Lot led the soldiers to surround the town. Morgan led the knights to deal with the left-behind knights and other armed men in the small town who dared to resist. Soon, the battle between the two sides was over. This is probably Lot's first battle in this world. However, because the difference in strength between the two sides was too large, Lot easily defeated all the resistance forces. So these people became captives of Lot. After becoming a prisoner, the next thing is how to deal with these people. The other knights all advocated the same vengeance as Fu Tigeng. Put these people to death. Morgan frowned slightly at the words of these knights. How come these people are so different from dogs? She looked at the crowd and coughed. Everyone stopped talking, and then looked at Morgan. With a slight frown, Morgan said to the knights, if we do the same thing as Fu Tigeng, doesn't it also prove that we are also as evil as Fu Tigeng? War is a matter for knights and soldiers. It has little to do with these ordinary people. We don't need to kill all these people. Kay walked away from the crowd and asked Morgan, but, Your Royal Highness, if these people are released, the news of our coming will soon be known by the people of Fu Tigeng. Then, what should we do? The update of the first chapter today is estimated to be around 12 o'clock. My friend came to look for it. I guess I'll go out to eat at night. It is estimated that the first chapter will be updated around 12 o'clock. If it is faster, it may be earlier. Don't worry, COO can't COO. Chapter 28 I will prove, first more. We don't care about being known by the other side. At this moment, Morgan showed a superior IQ expression on his face. Hey, I thought that way with you before. But then Lot told me. But, thinking of the triumphant expression Lot told him that time, Morgan wanted to grit his teeth. This is not overheard by myself. It was said in person. Morgan felt that if Lot had a tail behind him at the time, then he would definitely rise to the sky. Well now, it's time to raise your tail. I ask you, what will these people do after they escape? Morgan asked Kay. They will immediately report that our army has come here. Kay replied without hesitation. Yes. They will report to the remaining soldiers in the castle. Morgan recognized Kay's words. Then, she continued to ask, so, do you think the soldiers in those castles can defeat us? It's absolutely impossible. At the side, Altria said confidently. Kay continued to ask, but they can defend. If they close the castle, then we can only siege the castle. In this era, especially in the West, the means of siege is really weak. The only way to conquer the castle is a prolonged siege. This is very clear to anyone who has played the Crusader King of a certain P-club. In this era, Lot knows a little siege equipment, but he just knows. It doesn't mean he can do it. You're expecting a traverser to push out the siege vehicle back to the gun and other things empty-handed. That is really difficult for a strong man. In this case, if the castle is prepared, it will be too difficult to attack the city. However, our goal has never been those castles. Morgan said triumphantly. Our goal is the troops of Fu Tigeng who rushed back. In this case, if the castle falls prematurely, it is not conducive to it. We have plans for the next step. If the castle were to be broken, then maybe Fu Tigeng would think about it. Anyway, I have lost it, so why don't I try to continue to attack the chalk city? If it is defeated, go back and fight against the army that sneaked on me. If it is really a change of house, it is obvious that the next battle will be very detrimental to Lot's troops. The comparison of the number of Fu Tigeng's troops and Lot's troops is like the same ratio of Aaron Lay's potato chips to potato chips. The difference in numbers between the two sides is a bit too large. But if the castle hasn't fallen yet, so, whether it was for the safety of his rear or to comfort the hearts of his soldiers, of course, he had to return quickly to provide assistance. At this time, it was Lot and King Yaos who joined forces, 2 slices of bread with cheese, and Fu Tigeng was well beaten. After listening to Morgan's words, Kay, Altria and others showed expressions of admiration. Then I will expel those people to the north now, Kay said to Morgan immediately. Okay. There was a teachable expression on Morgan's face. Then, she let Kay and Altria start work. After giving the order, Morgan looked at Lot. Good guy, my wife is really shameless. What I said just now was completely what I said, but it hasn't changed at all. Is this guy angry? Morgan thought funny in his heart. Yes, comfort him. Then she came to Lot and reached out and grabbed his palm. I said, Lot, how am I learning your words? No problem. Right? She asked Lot with a look of affirmation. Lot was a little embarrassed when he heard Morgan say this. He nodded to Morgan and replied, well, it's not bad at all. So, Lot, won't you give me a little reward? Morgan continued to speak to Lot. You copied my words. You want me to reward you? Lot's eyes widened. What reward? Lot opened his mouth and continued to inquire. Of course. Morgan smiled, stretched out his arm, put his arm around Lot's neck, and gave him a hard kiss on the lips. After a kiss, she turned her head and looked around to see if anyone around could notice. No one found out. Okay, I got the reward, Morgan said to Lot with a smile. Ah, where is the reward I gave her? But the reward she gave me. Humphrey, of course, luscious dog. This is the compensation I just made with your words. Morgan took Lot's hand and followed the other troops. She looked at the people who were fleeing, and said to Lot with some regret, Lot, it's a pity that we don't have many ships. If there are more, we will transport all these people to Orkney. Orkney, population has always been a big problem. Well, indeed. Lot nodded slightly. But these are all forced to immigrate. In fact, Lot doesn't care very much. Let's prepare for the next siege, he said to Morgan. Good. Morgan nodded slightly. Then, as if thinking of something again, she asked Lot, you said, if we defeat Fu Tigeng smoothly, I will successfully become the king of Camelot in the future and let the nobles. Can you accept it? Sure. My wife is so powerful, so what can't it? Lot patted Morgan on the shoulder and said with a smile. But in my heart, alas, although I don't think it's possible, let's encourage her. Why? Morgan was puzzled. Old nobles, it is difficult to accept a woman to become their king. They even more expect a man to be their king. I know this, but didn't you say that my sister came to be the king? So how did she do it? Morgan began to think about what her sister might do. Is it a woman pretending to be a man? The knights are formed, or are women disguised as men? Who is this person? Also, King Arthur did not know Morgan's talents. He believes that only Arthur who successfully inherited his red dragon blood is the best candidate to become the king. Alas, encourage her now. In the future, when I develop well, I will definitely help Morgan to realize his wish. Upon hearing this, Morgan's brows wrinkled tightly. My father might even consider that blood is more important than talent. No, I want to prove his mistake. Also, Sikuzi believes in her talents so much. I also want to prove to him that his idea is right. In a group 10,20/037.992. Chapter 29 Fu Tigeng. Second more. What kind of person is Fu Tigeng? If only one word is used to describe it, that is horror. He led the army to the gate of the chalk city, ready to fight against King Asa. King Yaosa knew that his strength was insufficient, especially that Lot's army was still behind the Fu Tigeng domain. At the moment Camelot's strength is not very sufficient. Facing the attack of Fu Tigeng, he wanted to hide directly behind the castle. But it won't work if you don't face it directly. If it was obvious that he didn't dare to fight with Fu Tigeng, he would be afraid of being seen by Fu Tigeng. Fight. No matter what, the first battle must be fought well. King Arthur led a team of knights out. Seeing Fu Tigeng, he picked up his knight's gun and started to charge. Fu Tigeng's men saw King Yao's actions, and some eagerly came over to stop him. But at this moment, Fu Tigeng stopped him. You can't stop him, Fu Tigeng said. At the same time, he was also sitting on an unusually handsome war horse. Squeezing the knight's gun in his hand, Fu Tigeng also began to charge against King Yasa. Two people. One is the blood of the red dragon in the legend, and the other represents the will of the white dragon. The two knights were tit for tat. Fu Tigeng is strong, and King Asa, is not bad either. The knight collided with guns. Two sturdy knight guns shattered at the same time. Then, before the sawdust was floating on the ground, the two people held the hilt of the sword at the waist at the same time. Pull out the long sword in his hand, stabbed at the opponent. After the knight guns of the two sides did not tell the winner, the two began to compete with swordsmanship. The battle between the two continued for a long time. Finally, the two swung their swords together again. King Arthur retreated to the chalk city, and Fu Tigeng was standing in place with his sword. Obviously, in this battle, it was Fu Tigeng who had the upper hand. King Arthur returned to the castle. Everyone looked a little frustrated when he saw that he had been defeated just now. King Yaozef looked at his men losing their confidence. He took off the helmet from the top of his head, and then cheered up at the crowd. What? Am I the king who is famous for singles? Although I was at a disadvantage in the battle with Fu Tigeng, the war between the two sides is not necessarily. As he said this, he slapped the wall behind him hard. After all, we have this tall city wall, King Arthur said loudly. When everyone heard what King Yaozef said, their hearts felt a little settled. However, King Uther was still worried when he looked at the fighting force outside the city. Morgan, Lot, I put all the bets on your side. If you are unsuccessful, this chalk city cannot be resisted. King Arthur felt that this would be his last battle. In contrast to King Yaosef, after Fu had the upper hand, the soldiers under him were all excited. Wang, your combat effectiveness is really handsome, Your Majesty. As long as you give an order, we will destroy this chalk city. Listening to the compliment, Fu Tigeng only looked at the city with a slight frown. Wang, what's the matter with you? Someone saw Fu Tigeng's expression and asked him. I feel that King Yaozef seems to be preparing for a back move. Behind us, we may have encountered some problems, he replied to his hand. Then, shall we withdraw? The subordinate asked unwillingly. However, they would be awed by the strength of Fu Tigeng, and would not question anything more. No. Fu Tigeng shook his head slightly, then looked to the opposite side, strengthened the attack. Yes. People in this era don't build roads, or, Fu Tigeng, have you already planned it? Okay, I took down this grudge. Stepping on the muddy road, Lot complained in his heart. Riding on the horse, Morgan couldn't help laughing when he heard Lot's words. When they were preparing to attack, it was raining in the sky. And under the washing of rain, the road began to become muddy. Horses are not easy to ride. Can only be led by. Lot looked at Morgan. Of course he wouldn't let her lead the horse in the mud. So I had to lead her with a horse. But in his mind, he couldn't help but cursed Fu Tigeng. Bastard, knowing that I'm going to hit you, can't you go and build a road so that I can attack? Morgan listened in her heart. While she was amused, she also secretly remembered the road. If you want to maintain the transportation of troops at all times, you must ensure the smooth flow of road transportation everywhere. Only by building roads where you rule can you facilitate the movement of troops. She decided that after she became the king of Camelot in the future, she must first build roads. Well, the plan for future governance is first written down in the notebook. A little bit of Lot's stuff was squeezed out. Well, keep working hard, keep working hard. Morgan thought this in his mind, and then continued to use the rain gear in his hand to shield Lot from the rain. Rain is not without benefits. In the cover of this rain, Lot's army easily passed many strongholds set up by Fu Tigeng. After marching for a whole day and night, they finally arrived outside the base camp of Fu Tigeng. At this time, Fu Tigeng's men could be regarded as seeing Lot's army. Just like the civilians before, the remaining soldiers panicked instantly when they saw a force coming from the sea. Where do they come from? Why do we have no information at all? Could it be that the Roman Empire took advantage of the fire while we were at war with King Asa? Through the rain, The soldiers could not see the armor and number of Lot's troops, and according to the usual thinking, they even guessed whether it was the Romans coming. After all, like Lot's style of play, not many people in Britain in this era are using it. Panicked, they quickly sent someone to ask for help. And these, after Lot's troops caught one of the messengers, they also took this information in their hands. Unexpectedly, there are wrong tricks to this mistake, and we actually have this kind of windfall. It just so happens that we have to use this kind of intelligence even more. Lot and Morgan were determined not to let this coincidence after listening. Then, taking advantage of the rain, they created an attitude of wanting to attack the city, forcing the defenders who stayed behind. More messengers were sent to ask for help. Chapter 30, Inner Cloth Group, 1,020,037,992 Sharing Exchange Group 813,921,374 made a decision that violated the humble king. Make up the third update. This is the 30th. With a long sword in his hand, Merlin pierced a soldier in the uniform of the Fu Tigeng camp. This is the scout sent out in the castle. For the soldiers who passed the order, Lot and Morgan decided to ask these people to go to Fu Tigeng for help. But those who want to detect nearby soldiers, sorry, we can't let you know our fiction. And against these scouts, no one is better than Merlin. Although Merlin was unable to detect Lot's location, he still had to find the scouts who came out. One grasps one standard. Never give any chance to react. Merlin doesn't care what he thinks, but he will at least help King Arthur now. There were not many people inside. They killed 30 investigators. They should not dare to send out again. Lot looked at the fallen corpse and touched his chin and said, "Yes, there are not many people who can do this job. It's not a simple thing to run out and come back." Merlin responded to Lot's words. Listening to the two people talking like this, Morgan opened the tent and said to Lot, "Well, I said you two, are you comfortable taking it outside?" "Lot, you come in quickly. My dog can't be frozen. And as for that old liar and Merlin, sorry, we are not familiar." Lot and Morgan are not stupid. Of course they know what Morgan means. In this regard, Lot, who had been in the rain with Merlin just now, got directly into the tent. "Sorry, Merlin. We are also unfamiliar." Merlin. Lot's tent is specially made. In other words, he fished it out of modern times. Coupled with some rainproof measures of this era, Lot can't get in any rain when he enters the tent. Inside the tent, Morgan was burning hot water. As a Chinese, there are two obsessive-compulsive disorders in his bones. First, you can't see that any land is deserted and no crops are planted. And the second point is that you are extremely disgusted with raw water, and you will never drink it if it is not boiled. Especially now this rainy day. The cold weather makes the whole body soaked, and a cup of hot water at this time can completely drive away the cold from the body. Also, if you don't drink raw water, you won't get those diseases like malaria. Fully guaranteed the combat effectiveness of the army. Lot watched Morgan holding a cup, poured a cup of hot water, and opened his mouth to sip, and showed a satisfied expression. Lot was very happy to see it. In this era, I told my sister to boil hot water and drink more hot water. She would never say to herself that she was a straight man, which is great. Looking at the boiling hot water, Lot thought in his heart. Morgan heard Lot say this. His face was a little puzzled. "This era? Aren't you the older one with me?" "Listening to what you mean, those who don't know think you are a longevity species that has lived for many years. Also, lukewarm. Why am I dissatisfied with drinking more hot water? Why is this?" Morgan didn't understand. But then, she passed the hot water in her hand to Lot. "Come on, drink more hot water." Lot took it and drank it in one gulp. After drinking it, Morgan remembered that this cup was the one she had just used for tea. His face was flushed a bit. Lot didn't feel that way. After drinking, he looked at Morgan and said, "Morgan, we will take this opportunity to continue sending troops to harass. If you don't do anything, it's a bit too fake." After encircling the castle, the next step is to be exhausted. "Huh? Lot, what are you going to do?" Morgan asked Lot wonderingly. Lot explained, "Of course they sent teams of soldiers to harass them in turns. As long as the momentum is increased, they will definitely think that we are going to attack, and then they will start defending. As a result, we will not go. After coming so many times, they are definitely going to collapse. At that time, the demand for reinforcements will definitely increase, so that our actions will be more convenient." "Okay." Morgan understood, and very supportive. What is the most feared by human beings is unknown. It's like seeing the ADC with the nightmare turned off, the ADC with the poodle turned on, and the ADC with the clown invisible. This means when he will be beaten. This is the state in Fu Tigeng's castle now. With heavy rain, it is not clear what the enemy outside the castle is. The messengers sent information out, but they didn't know if it was delivered, and if the scouts went out, it was gone forever. It's as if there are beasts outside, and I don't know what it is. The mental torture of the soldiers stationed inside is steadily intensifying. But when I was looking for it, Lot's harassment tactics began to be used. One night, as long as they just lay down, there was the sound of the horn. They still dare not defend themselves. The Romans had very good craftsmanship, and there was still a lot of siege equipment. What if the attack is really successful? but wait until they really start to defend. But at this time, after waiting for a long time, no one came to attack. Damn, we were deceived. The defenders suddenly felt that their mentality was not good. No, go to sleep. They continued to go to sleep. Then before they took off their clothes, the attacking voice rang again. Attack. The enemy's attack comes again. The soldiers had no choice but to get up again to prepare for defense. When defending in the past, it was still the same. After waiting for a long time, there was nothing, then went to sleep. But the attacking voice rang again. The defenders knew that this attack might be false, but they had to get up, because this is a shame. If you dare not let go, if you really attack, what should you do if someone really does attack? They still think that these people may be Romans who crossed over from the other side of the sea. They can't do anything about it. If you are short of manpower, you can only be deceived and beaten like this. These days the rain is very continuous, and the constant exhaustion makes these defenders on the verge of collapse. Several messengers continued to be sent, but those reinforcements did not arrive at all. They are still suffering from constant harassment. But after a long time, they really figured out a way. This method, people will often come and do it. During the 15th and 20th minutes of LOL, they decided to make a decision that went against the humble king. Clicked. Labor and management stopped fighting.